Hello everyone, welcome to LT Gaming. My name is Tom, and today we're going to be taking a look at the early access game of Netherguild, a turn-based tactical roguelite dungeon crawler that's coming out on the 27th of March. So a few things first, I have spoken with the developer David directly, and I got the following information about the release. The price will be around $10 initially, with plans to increase this incrementally as more content is added. Additionally, the version of the game I have played may differ from the early access version as it's going to be updated a lot closer to launch. Before we get into the video itself, please consider dropping a like or comment with your thoughts on this video if you enjoy it, and it will also help us out on YouTube. And of course, consider subscribing for more content if you like what we do. So, Netherguild. In this game, you command expeditions below the earth in a desperate attempt to cure a strange plague. Explore, camp, and fight as far as you can before heading back to resupply. In this video, I'm going to be focusing on the game's roguelite features, dungeon crawling resource management, the original game world that's been created, and the aesthetics and combat. So let's jump in. One of the standout features of Netherguild is its roguelike gameplay with persistence and story elements thrown in to boot. You get to keep your characters at the end of each expedition, if they survive of course, equip them with increasingly powerful items and level them up over time. So for me, this adds a nice layer of depth as you kind of grow attached and become invested in your characters and their progress. The story progresses as well as you explore deeper and find out more about the secrets of the game's world. So it's an interesting way for the gameplay and the story to kind of tie in together. Another aspect of the game that stood out to me was the dungeon crawling resource management, something akin to Darkest Dungeon. So your powerful abilities have limited amount of uses, and your characters have limited amount of inventory space. So this adds a strategic element to the game, as you have to decide what's more important: the priceless loot that you just picked up from your fallen enemies and bringing that back to the surface, or the firewood logs that allow your characters to recover and descend even deeper into the mines. So it can be a tough choice to make, but it keeps the gameplay fresh and engaging, and I think it's drawn well upon other titles in this space. Another aspect that I feel is worthy of mention is the game world that Netherguild is set in. So I think it's really something to behold. It's a fantasy setting, but it doesn't play by the typical genre conventions. So you don't have orcs and elves and goblins and these sort of things. And there's no wizards throwing lightning bolts and casting fireballs. Instead, you have these biospheres and underground denizens. And it goes really deep underground, I must say. So it's a really refreshing take on the genre. Reminds me of something akin to like Minecraft, not in the way it plays, but in the way the biomes are set up, and it keeps it very interesting. Additionally, you have these different factions that kind of form the world, and you do different missions and get influence with some whilst losing influence with others. So there is kind of a political mechanic at play as well. And I feel like one of the most obvious points to talk about with Netherguild is the voxel pixel aesthetic that it has, which kind of juxtaposes very nicely with the serious themes of the story. So you're fighting against plague and conspiracy, but the game has a very whimsical charm to it and a unique visual style, particularly for kind of the RPG genre, I feel. And it works very well with the game's overall tone. So really looking forward to seeing how this develops in the early access as well. And one important thing to dive into in any game and particularly for Netherguild, is the combat aspects. So combat, you can think of this as another form of resource management in the game. You need to learn your different enemies and how to defeat them, and when to also leg it in combat and run away. So hitting enemies, there is no RNG involved, so you depend on the abilities that your different characters have, and when you have these tricky enemies that are immune to certain effects and maybe your strategy that you've been reliant upon, it can be quite an unfortunate circumstance and you need to flee. So you need to be mindful of preventing your characters from getting too hurt or receiving debuffs. And this means that careful strategizing needs to go into when you deploy your most powerful abilities and when you will maybe save them for later. It can be really tempting when you're in a playthrough to kind of drop these crazy abilities as soon as possible, only to later regret it when you're in a much tougher fight and you fail to consider the bigger picture of your entire run rather than one single battle. So yeah, the combat is very fun, and I think a lot of people will be attracted by the fact there is no RNG in this. So in conclusion, I think Netherguild is an extremely interesting take and slant on the roguelike dungeon crawler genre. I think all the elements that I've mentioned, including particularly the dungeon crawling resource management and the combat not being RNG based, create quite a compelling game experience. I'm really excited to jump deeper into this game and kind of uncover more secrets, as I've only played around 6-7 hours at this point. But I do see the potential in this game, and I think it could be a big hit down the road. Check it out, guys. I think the price tag is really reasonable for what you're getting, and I find myself jumping into this game quite frequently lately. Thank you for watching, and of course, if you have played the game or you have any comments, let us know below. Of course, feel free to drop us a like and help us out with the YouTube algorithm, and I will see you guys on the next video. Bye bye now.